Chainmail armor, also known as maille, has to be one of the coolest looking forms of armor ever used, consisting of thousands of small metal rings linked together in a mesh. It was used by everyone from the Gauls to the medieval knights of Europe. So today we're going to take a look at this interlocking shield of the ancient warrior, first appearing in the late Iron Age with the Celts, specifically the Gauls around the 3rd century BCE. Chainmail would later spread across Europe thanks to the Franks, Romans and many others. But why did the Celts start making this stuff? Well, they were some of the fiercest warriors of their time, and may have needed the extra protection when fighting other tribes. Plus, the stuff probably looked pretty cool to them. The earliest archaeological finds of maille date back to the late 8th century BCE in the Latine culture, named after a famous Swiss archaeological site. While the Celts are typically associated with the stuff, other cultures like the Dacians and the Scythians also wore it. But the real chainmail revolution happened when the Romans showed up. The Romans first encountered Celts' chainmail during their Gallic Wars, and were so impressed by its flexibility and coverage that they incorporated it into their armies. Known as larica armata, it became a staple of legionary armor, appearing everywhere from Britain to Dacia. And it wasn't just copied by Rome, but also the Sassanid Persians and the medieval knights of Europe who all loved the stuff for good reason. Chainmail was flexible and allowed the wearer full movement, while still protecting them against slashing and stabbing attacks. It was also often worn over a padded gambeson to absorb the impact of blows, giving the wearer an extra layer of defense. And if it gets damaged, it can be repaired without having to throw out the entire garment. Unlike leather or fabric armor, of course, there were downsides. Chainmail was expensive, taking hours to produce and sometimes even longer to repair. It was also not great at stopping blunt force trauma like an axe or a mace. But the pros definitely outweighed the cons for most warriors. But how exactly was chainmail made? Traditionally, it was made of wrought iron or mild steel rings that were either drawn or riveted together. A skilled craftsman would alternate between using riveted and solid rings. This created a flexible yet strong mesh that could withstand even the mightiest of swords. In fact, the only way to really break it was to use a lot of force and hit the same spot repeatedly, which isn't easy to do unless you read the guy in the Warhammer movie who took a nasty right hook from a troll. The most common weave pattern was the 4-in-1 pattern, where each ring was linked together through 4 others. But there were many other patterns used throughout history, from the simple 2-in-1 to the more complex 3-in-1 and Byzantine weaves. A full hauberk, or long shirt of maille, could weigh anywhere from 10 to 15 kilograms or 22 to 33 pounds, depending on the size and the craftsmanship. But the weight was distributed evenly over the body, so it wasn't too much of a burden to wear. In fact, it was so comfortable that many people slept in their chainmail. By the late Middle Ages, chainmail had largely been replaced by plate armor for elite soldiers, but it never truly vanished. Even today, it's still used as a secondary layer under plate for some military applications, as well as being incorporated into shark-proof diving suits and stab-resistant police gear. So what's your favorite thing about chainmail? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more videos of terrible and awesome history. Thanks for watching.